Welcome to the Tarot Tapestry, a weaving of self-discovery, where three tarot mavens put their heads and hearts together to offer their wisdom and insights about the tarot. We hope that you find this helpful in your personal journey to self-discovery and growth.
Join us as we explore ways to use tarot for self-reflection and self-correction.
Together, we'll discover new ways to use tarot to weave threads of understanding into the tapestry of your life.
Hello, and welcome again to the Tarot Tapestry. Today, Angie and I are going to do the episode, and we are going to be talking about the knights, and both of us are using the traditional RWS deck. We will talk a little bit about what each knight of each suit represents, and then we decided we would do something maybe a little bit different, and we will pull cards to see which knight we would want to help us address whatever the question that card brings up. Will we want a fighter, a thinker, or just a good old steady workhorse? So we'll go forward with that.
Yeah, we can start with the knights are a knight goes on quests and they overcome challenges and protect people and are probably, eventually they're doing all of this so they can eventually settle down and have the kind of life that they want.
Exactly.
And so we thought it would be fun to sort of describe what we think their different techniques for approaching challenges would be. And then we will pull cards and we'll decide who would be good at helping us with that problem and who maybe we wouldn't want to emulate.
Wouldn't pick for a particular thing, but for another thing, he might be just the one.
Exactly.
Yeah, I tend, when I work with the RWS and the traditional decks, I tend to kind of think in terms of the medieval hierarchy. The pages are in training, they serve the knights. They are probably in training to become knights. They're kind of like apprentices, so they have that youthful energy. They're kind of exciting and excited to be where they are. The knights have the training, they have the armor, they have the big horse, they have all the equipment they need to go on a quest or to take care of business, to fight a war, to protect the kingdom, the realm, that kind of thing. So that's kind of where we are with knights. And like Angie said, maybe at some point, if they do their knight thing well, they would be granted some land by the king and be able to have their own little fiefdom with their own land and servants and everything else. That might be their goal. It's funny, my grandson is rewatching the Game of Thrones, and so we've been kind of into that so I'm all into medieval kind of thinking right now.
Oh, very cool. Yeah.
Yeah.
That would be a fun one to watch and assign characters from the tarot deck to that show. But
that'd be a whole other thing, but that might be an episode down the road. Yeah, absolutely.
Absolutely. So the Knight of Wands, he's riding through the desert, right? You can see the pyramids off in the distance, and he's on a charging horse. He's got a big fiery plume coming out of his helmet, and he's riding with his wand, holding onto his wand, and it looks like he's just very focused, and he knows exactly what he's going to do when he gets to where he's going. And I don't think I'd want him mad at me. Definitely.
No, he's definitely got a fiery horse. His horse is a chestnut. He's also got the little what are they? Geckos or salamanders on his
for fire.
On his cheek? Yeah, for fire. And it's really interesting. I had a friend of mine. We both worked in the restaurant business. We both worked in kitchens, and I don't know if you know this, but there's on a line, like there's a grill station that does like the steaks and stuff, and that kind of runs the whole thing for the restaurant. Mm-hmm. And then you usually have a fry station, and then down at the other end you have where you do like specialty things or salads. So it's just set up, and you have a grill back here. Usually there's a refrigerator where you get your steaks or whatever. You have a big grill, and over here it's like almost like a broiler in an oven that stays on, but it's where you keep things warm.
Mm-hmm.
and it's called a salamander.
Ah,
And my friend did not know why. He said, "Why is it called a salamander?" And I told him about the properties, and he was like, "Oh, I never knew that. I have no idea why they call it a salamander."
yeah.
So so yeah, he's even got salamanders on his tunic, and the horse is kind of reared up but well controlled. It's not out of control because you can see that his head is kind of down and he's got the reins, tight. So, but he's ready. He's ready and he's on his way.
Right. And another thing that you did bring up, sort of, but we didn't really touch on, is the knights are sort of the action of the element that they represent, right? And Knight of Wands, the wands is associated with fire, and salamanders are, uh, it's like the spiritual embodiment of that element in magic.
Right.
Salamanders for
Yeah,
fire.
even though they live in the water, it's like they're supposed to be able to survive the fire
Hmm.
and come back. I don't know exactly what the legend is, but it's something about being able to survive the fire, even though they're water creatures.
Okay, and the Knight of Cups is just so very sweet, right? That's the romantic knight. He's the knight in shining armor kind of guy, and he's got this full cup that he's holding out, and his horse is very demure and, gracefully kind of walking. And um, this would be a knight who is probably really empathic and good at negotiating from that standpoint of understanding how the other person feels and knowing how to control their own feelings so that they don't, you know, overtake someone by force. I don't think that the Knight of Cups would be my first choice if I was going in for, say, uh, a job interview or, well, maybe, I don't know. It
Well,
depends
I
on the
don't
job.
know. It's interesting because on his helmet, and again, we're both working for the same deck this time, which we don't always do, but on his helmet, he has like the wings of Mercury,
Mm-hmm.
um, like the FTD florist. And Mercury is all about communication and all about being able to get your point across and do that probably with your words versus your sword. The other thing that and he's also got the wings on his um, either his stirrups or his
His
boots
boots.
or greaves or whatever they're called.
So I
The
take
other
it
thing,
back. He'd be good. He'd be good helping the job interview.
he'd be a good help with a job interview.
Yeah,
He wouldn't be necessarily the first one you'd call on to storm the castle, but
exactly.
he might be the one that you'd send ahead to maybe soften them up a little bit.
So maybe
But
see, can we settle this without
yeah,
bloodshed?
without having to storm the castle.
Mhm.
So the other thing that I like is that because he has this cup, and you can't really tell from the illustration, I assume that there's something in the cup. And his horse is well in hand. He's well controlled, and he's very upright. He's not leaning forward like he's urging the horse to go faster, and he's not leaning back like he's trying to get it to stop. He's very upright in the saddle, and the horse almost seems to have his head kind of turned back like he's listening to him. Um, to me there's a lot of communication between the horse and rider, and I don't know, I was a horse freak when I was younger. I wanted a horse more than I wanted life itself, and that never happened, but I just love horses. And there's a particular breed of a horse called a Pasofino that's from South America, and
Mhm.
they're smaller horses, but they have a thing when they do the shows is that they put down board on the ground. They put board on the ground, and they have this gait it's like it's not a trot. It's like a very fast walk that you can hear all four beats of the hooves. But the trademark is that the people who ride them in the traditional costumes, they wear these hats that have flat tops. They're like almost like the Spanish, and they put a glass of water on top of that hat, and they go the whole length of the board, and the water never moves. The water
Wow.
doesn't move, and that's how smooth that gate is. And that's what I think of when I think of the Knight of Cups, is that there's lots of communication between him and his animal companion, and is very smooth. he can communicate with his horse. They know what he knows what they know what they want of each other. And I feel like that he's the person that you'd want to be your negotiator for things. Maybe the envoy to go ahead to see, kind of suss out the lay of the land, and maybe he could get things started, or maybe he'd come back and say, nope, sorry, it's going to be an all out war.
But he would do it with style and class.
Mhm.
So the Knight of Swords, to
Well,
me, he looks angry to me, the face in this card. And maybe that's just my
no,
he looks like
he looks
yelling.
like
He's gonna
he's going
go.
into battle.
Yep, he's running, he's going into the wind, his horse is leaping, and the trees in the background are blowing, and there's little cumulus clouds, or what are they called, the big flat skinny clouds that move really fast across the sky. And
yeah, Cirrus, I think.
there you go. I've forgotten that information from 8th grade science, 6th grade science, whatever.
Yep.
But he doesn't look, he looks kind of like the kind of person who might fly off the handle over things that maybe shouldn't be that big of a deal. And he's right and you're wrong, and he's gonna poke holes in somebody with that sword.
Yeah.
So, this would definitely be a good knight to have on your side if you have to take quick action, if you really have to give someone an absolute hard no, not this time, and not ever again, don't you ever try this again, kind
Right.
of thing.
Right. Yeah. I mean, it's kind of a scorched earth policy. But what I just noticed about this, because I've always kind of looked at just the thing as a whole, but I'm looking at the horse. And the horse is going full speed ahead, and his mane is blowing, but his eyes kind of looking back at him like, "Are you sure about this?
Are you sure we're doing the right thing here, boss?"
I was like, because I don't know. Do we really want to go this hard? Or we really want to do this?
Yeah.
I just
Yeah.
noticed that it making me laugh.
So the Knight of Pentacles.
I'm so sorry. I'm having a cramp. My leg is cramping like crazy. It's
I
okay.
had one earlier when we were recording the first one. I had to get up. I had a cramp in my foot. I had to get up and walk around for a minute. I don't know.
And just as a side note, Angie and I live on opposite sides of Colorado. So she lives on the Utah side. I live on the Kansas side. So we have several hundred miles between us. And yet we share a brain and now apparently a body. Because we're always making the same. We're making the same thing for dinner. We're always doing the same thing. I've been doing this. Well, I've been doing that too. What about that? And then now she had a cramp in her foot and I have a cramp in my leg. So it's just too weird.
Okay, on to the Knight of Pentacles.
On to the Knight of Pentacles.
So this guy looks really solid, right? His horse is super strong, and he's standing still and he's looking ahead, and probably, he's planning his approach to something.
Well, and he's also like the Knight of Cups is by a stream. The stream is running through, and the Knight of Wands is kind of on a desert. Well, you see the desert, and you said pyramids, and they do look like the pyramids. I was just thinking hills, but they do look like the pyramids. And the Knight of Swords is on kind of a hilly land, but it doesn't look too fertile, but he's standing on land that looks like it's been plowed fields, and there's some green, and there's some trees in the background, mountains farther in the distance. But so he looks like a knight. He looks like, again, going with the medieval thing, where he would be the person maybe that the ruler would send to collect rent, or to, enforce certain things that the decrees had been gone out from the crown. And he's very steadfast. I feel like he's very steadfast, and he's very much a person who could enforce the rules, but yet not be, I don't know what the word I want to use is. Not be punitive. It's just like, guys, look, this has to happen. Everybody has to do it. We want to get it taken care of. he's able to get things done like that and deal with. He's sort of like, if you had all four of them lined up, he might be the last one that you'd pick for charisma, but yet he is a person. He will always be the person who can get the job done. It may
This
not
guy
be
reminds me.
flashy. It may not be
I,
flashy. It may not be. You're not going to be Jamie Lannister, but you're going to get the job done, and you won't get your hand cut off.
right, and this guy reminds me of my dad's oldest brother, who was a farmer, and he had horses, like that, the big
Oh, the
black
draft
Clydesdale
horses. Yeah.
draft horses. And he was, like I said, he was a farmer. He was a land mover. You say landscaper. This is not what he was. He built an island in a lake
Yeah.
for his family.
Yeah.
He
He literally moved Earth.
yes. And this card always makes me think of him because he was always very calm and very kind, but also no nonsense. Like
Yeah. It was
this
sort of
is how it
implacable. Yeah,
exactly.
he
But he
was
was
not going to
never
lose
mean
his
about it. He was never mean
not
about
going
it.
to
You
lose
were
his
never,
temper, and he was not
yeah.
going to be mean or vindictive, but it was like you don't stand a chance against him because he's just going to keep going.
This is the night I want around when I'm like having a big life change, when I need somebody to just be like, just stay calm. You
Yeah.
know, that's
Yeah,
who
without actually saying that.
no, don't ever say that to me.
No,
Never
he would
say
never
that to me.
say to you, calm down. But he
No,
would just be in the room and go about doing and then you would just calm down because of his energy.
his
He would just
calming presence.
naturally kind of
Yes,
calm you down.
absolutely. So, okay, should we each pull a card and see what we can do with our
So,
night?
okay, so we're going to pull. Okay, so we're not going to assign cards. We just want to lay down 4 cards on face down, and then we'll
Sure. Okay.
do that,
That
and
sounds
then
like a good
see.
idea.
And it's okay if night gets more than one
Yeah.
purpose.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
Although we might have to keep drawing until everyone has a card.
Has something that they would be good at.
That's right. You don't want anybody to be left out.
Oh, well, my first card that I drew and flipped over is the Chariot. And so
Oh,
that is about choosing a path to go along, right? And choosing it pretty much intuitively, like you're doing it because you know that's what is right for you. And I think that the best guy to have in your corner for that kind of thing would be the Knight of Cups, who could
I
go
agree with you.
along and negotiate with people as you ran into them and help you find the most peaceful path, but also
Yeah,
profitable. You know,
yeah.
I think that the Knight of Swords would be super terrible in that situation because they would just want to go. Just make it. I
I
don't
know.
care. Just go. Just do a
Yeah,
thing.
he want to be Ben-Hur.
Hmm.
Actually, no, he wouldn't want to be Ben-Hur. He'd want to be Masala, the one that was trying to
Yeah,
run him off the road.
right.
And that did well.
Right.
Okay, I got the 6 of Wands, which is um, interesting. And the 6 of Wands is kind of a success card where he's coming in. This person is on his horse and he's got a wand with a wreath on it, which is kind of the victory wreath. And then there are other wands around him, kind of in a procession.
Hmm.
And mainly, I'm going to say this, a visual thing, but mainly because their postures are almost identical, I would also go with the Knight of Cups on this. Partly because the feeling of this card is kind of it's victory. So you're after the fact of whatever happened to cause you to be victorious. And I think that the Knight of Cups, if this were a conflict or a battle that you had been victorious in, but now you have to deal with the aftermath of it, I think the Knight of Cups would be very good, like you said, in negotiating, in discussing, in having to figure out how we put these various parts together. If now I'm riding victorious into a conquered place, or having to Again, maybe you have become the boss. Maybe you have gotten a job where you have to supervise people and they're not happy about it, or they're, that's just changed. And so there's all a little, everything's shaken up. And so I think that the Knight of Cups would be really good for that too.
I agree. And when somebody's victorious, chances are someone else is feeling less
Is
victorious or like
feeling
they
right,
lost.
is feeling stomped on and like, oh, I'm really resentful of this. And
So the
so,
Knight of Cups would be a good peacemaker in that situation,
yeah,
helping everyone find what is best for them
yeah, I
in
think
in
that's really good. All
okay.
right, second
All
card.
right. So the next one I pulled was the Ace of Swords.
Ooh,
Yeah. So to me, the Ace of Swords has always been, this is a good idea, or this is an idea that has weight, right? Because swords are sharp on both sides.
right.
Um, and you have to decide how you're going to use this idea. And it's a sword, so it's sharp on both sides. And I am a klutz sometimes, both socially and like physically. I've really hurt myself in some very creative ways throughout my life. So I think maybe for wielding that Ace of Swords, I think the Knight of Pentacles would be a good person to have around.
Kind of a balance. Yeah.
Yeah, yes. To, yes, pursue your ideas, but also go slow enough so you can see a couple of, at least one step ahead. So you make sure
Yeah.
that you're not um, going to burn it out or go the wrong direction because you're just not looking at the big picture at the moment.
Yes.
I
Yes.
think maybe the Knight of Swords would also be very bad to have with me in that situation, unless it is.
Yeah. It's just too many swords.
Yeah, exactly. I've got this one, and I'm not exactly sure what I'm going to do with it yet. And he's just going to be like, "Go cut, go hack,
Go
slash."
slash and burn, slash
Yeah,
and
exactly.
burn. Okay. Well, I picked the World.
Oh.
So the World is the last card in the Major Arcana, and it shows a figure. In the traditional deck, you've got the eagle, the cow, or the bull, the lion, and I don't know, a person in the four corners of the card. And then there's a big portal, kind of a wreath looking thing, but a portal where this person is coming through, and she or they, I think she, has two wands in her hand, and she's sort of modestly, modesty is preserved by the drape of cloth around her, sort of preserved. Her chest is open. But anyway, she's coming through a portal. And to me, this is like, so you start with the Fool at 0 and you go through the Major Arcana and you end up here. And now we're going to go through the portal and we're going to start the Fool all over again. It's sort of like the upward spiral. You're not on a flat spiral, you're kind of spiraling up, but you kind of go through the same journey throughout your life in different levels. And so for this one, because it's a beginning, it's an ending and a beginning. You're going through the portal, you're not really sure what's on the other side. And it's a lot of beginning energy. I think for this one, I would pick the Knight of Wands. The Knight of
Yeah.
Wands makes me think of Aries, and Aries is my mom, who always was. She was a great person to start a project.
Mm-hmm.
Always finish it.
Yeah.
But her energy and enthusiasm for beginnings was unmatched, and I think that the Knight of Wands here, is certainly someone who would leap through a portal with great enthusiasm, and just maybe he doesn't know what's on the other side, and maybe it's not going to be great, or but he's got the energy and enthusiasm, and he's got the equipment to deal with whatever might be on the other side of that portal. And so I think that he would be a good one to have when you're getting ready to step off into something and maybe you're not too sure about it. He would give you the confidence and the energy to go forward.
Yeah, he's really enthusiastic, but not reckless. Passionate, but not reckless.
Not reckless. Yeah, he has his ability to control. Like, he's got his horse controlled. He's not just flinging himself out there like, oh, I'm gonna, just go off the cliff. But but just like, yeah, this is a new thing. Let's try it. Let's not hold back. Let's not be, too scared to take a step. We gotta do this.
Okay, my third
This is
card that
such a cool, I just have to stop. This is just such a cool exercise. I think this
oh,
is a great exercise. Yeah,
I'm glad that you like it. I think it's really cool too. It's helping me understand the nights better. Court cards can be a little bit tricky in
they can
reading.
be. They can be. I'm
One of the
way more
things that,
comfortable than I used to be, but they still can
yeah,
sometimes they just baffle me.
yep, same. Okay, so I pulled the Hangman, and you know how we were talking about with the Ace of Swords, you don't want to be making any impulsive decisions. And I
Right.
chose the Knight of Pentacles as my help there. But in the Hanged Man, sometimes you do just need to do a thing. I
Yep.
think the Knight of Swords would be really good help in the Hanged Man. First of all, he would cut that thing that's holding you still, and you got to fall down and then
Right.
figure out how to stand back up again. So that's, I'm going to have to decide how to do that one thing. I can't just stay here and do nothing and,
Nothing. Exactly.
observe anymore. Um, the Knight of Pentacles, I don't think he would be bad in the situation, but I think he might be a little more, well, why should I let you down? What are you going to do if I let you down? You know?
Yep.
Um, and yeah, the Knight of Swords is more action, kind of action oriented. I don't care what you do, just do something. Just stop
Yeah,
standing
right.
there not doing
Right. Stop
anything.
just hanging there. Why are you just
Right.
hanging there? That's annoying.
Yeah. Um, so what was your third card?
My third card is the Six of Swords. And this is interesting. Um, oh my gosh. Okay, so the Six of Swords is there. It's a boat. There's a person, a boat, barge, whatever. There's a person sitting in the boat that you think is a woman. She's got a cloak. Everything is seen. You're behind it, so you're seeing everything from the back. You see the back of the woman, the back of a child. There's a boatman on the back of the boat with a pole, so he's pushing the barge or the boat into the water. And there's six swords stuck in the boat. So if you pull the swords out, there's going to be there's going to be water. You assume we can't see the point of the sword, so we assume that they're through the boat, and so there would be holes in the boat if you pulled out the swords, which could be problematic. Um, I kind of look at this card as no matter where you go, if you move from your hometown, if you leave a situation, a job, a relationship, or whatever, if you don't work on those things, pulling out those swords and healing whatever it is, the injuries that it's caused, that you will always be in these kind of situations, because wherever you go, there you are.
Right.
You don't, you can move, but if you don't work on yourself, you're going to end up in the same situation with different people. And so for this one, I think I would pick the Knight of Pentacles, because he is very steadying. He is also a person who deals with resources. And he is someone who I think that energy could help you figure out how to do different things that maybe don't cost a lot, if that makes sense. Whereas you don't have to buy a new wardrobe, you don't have to do this, you don't have to do that. But in order to be different or to act differently, you have to think about the things that you have and maybe use them in a different way. And just him sitting there with the pentacle in his hand, kind of thinking about, how are we going to utilize these resources? Because resources is not just money, it's time, it's energy, it's effort, it's all kinds of stuff that you use in your life to get through. So I think that this night could help you, as you pull those swords out of your boat or yourself or whatever, and try to figure out, okay, why did I shoot myself in the foot on this? Or why did I, what was going on that got me into this situation, and how can I work on that kind of trait on myself that I don't get into that situation again? I think the Knight of Pentacles could just, again, the calm, the steady, the getting things done in a not flashy way. It's
Hmm.
like the Knight of Pentacles doesn't really call attention to himself, and yet he's always going forward. He's
And I
always,
think too, not just figuring out what you should do, he would be a really good person to advise you on what not to do again,
yeah,
too.
exactly,
Like to stop and
exactly.
think, okay, last time I was in this situation, I did this thing. And so that's where where my attention, where my mind goes. That
That was my fork in the road.
right.
So,
And so he might be good to have around to say, now, listen, last time you did this in a similar situation, you ended up somewhere that you didn't want to be. So maybe don't do that this time.
right,
And
exactly.
don't worry too much right now if you don't know what to do, but just
Yeah.
don't do that this time. Just
Yeah,
stand there.
because he would just be saying, and sometimes even just doing your daily routine for a week or a month or 6 months and not making big choices will give you the time to gain perspective. And that way, when you've had some time under your belt after you've left the situation in this boat, then you can figure out, you don't have to solve everything right this minute.
Yeah. Yeah, totally. Okay. And the last card that I got is also a major arcana card. I pulled the star, which talks about situations like that's maybe not so much of a challenge. Well, it can be challenging to rest and to take a breath and to just be peaceful for a while. That can be really challenging for some people.
Yeah.
Um, and the Knight of Cups is getting a lot of action today because I think they would be really good at helping you figure out how you feel about this situation
Yeah.
where
Yeah.
everything seems to be fine you know, and it seems to be safe to sit down. Not everybody believes that, even when it's true. So I
Right.
think the Knight of Cups would be a really good person to help you remember, excuse me, that or to help you just like in a calm and compassionate way
Yeah.
assess how you're feeling and what you might need there. Because I think in the star, you pretty much, that's like a place you can go, I feel like, to get whatever you need. Maybe it's
Right.
rest,
It
maybe it's
is. Yeah.
inspiration, maybe it's motivation, maybe so when you have an opportunity, I think the star card is a place of opportunity to decide which way you want to turn or what you might need or what you might not want anymore, even.
Yeah.
And I
Exactly.
think that the Knight of Cups would be the one to help you explore the
Yeah,
whole
because
spiral of emotions. Yeah.
the star does come after the tower, and so it could be like you have a moment after some crisis or something where you're just like, okay, well, I survived the crisis, but now what?
Right.
And I'm taking some rest, but sometimes you're just like depleted, or you're just you just can't think anymore right now. And I think the
Right.
Knight of Cups could come in there and just say, yeah, be very
Yeah, and the
helpful.
star, I think all of the knights, like I'm thinking of them more as like personality types and
Uh-huh.
what they might need in the star card. I think the Knight of Wands would probably be a little like, come on, we got to do something, there's not a lot of action
Yeah.
happening,
Yeah.
and so a person with that sort of a personality from this card might get some benefit from um, not actually creating anything right now, but
Yeah.
maybe just diving into a bunch of books or documentaries about whatever they're passionate about and just
Yeah.
kind of
Just getting
soaking up
information.
ideas and
Yeah.
inspiration and like
Yeah,
that.
exactly. Exactly.
And the Knight of Swords definitely was you just got to lay down and take a nap, friend.
Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah. It's just, yeah. Okay. The intensity is a little bit too much. You can stop
yeah, but
now.
I feel like the Knight of Cups and the Knight of Pentacles would just be very comfy there, just like
Yeah, I think
from
so.
the get-go. So,
So my last card is, and these cards are kind of, I haven't kind of totally wrapped my head around both of them. One is the three of wands, but this is the two of wands. And the two of wands is a person, man's kind of standing on a battlement, I guess you would say. looking out, and there's a water, a bay, kind of, there's mountains and he's holding a globe in his hand, and then he's holding one of the wands, and the other wand is sort of attached to the battlement with a brace at the bottom. And he's just kind of looking out. He's just kind of, he could be planning, he could be thinking about something. I think the holding the globe kind of says, the world is in your hands. What are you going to do about it? Um, Twos are always about decisions and kind of choices. So I think in this case, for this particular fellow, and looking out in the way he is, I would pick the Knight of Swords, because I think in this case, he's kind of, maybe he has a little bit of analysis paralysis. Where he's been thinking about what he wants to do, but he hasn't been able to really make a decision. And, one of the wands is literally locked down on the thing, and the other one he's holding. And if he lets go of it, it's going to fall. So I think the Knight of Swords would just say, come on, buddy. What is that? The guy in the car, get in, loser. We're going shopping. Or get in, loser. We're going to do world conquering. Or get in, loser. We're going to do whatever. I think
Exactly.
it's going to be kind of that way. And I think he kind of needs a little oomph behind him so that he can make a decision and do what it is that he wants to do. He's standing there thinking about it, but he can't seem to get it in gear. So,
yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, the Knight of Swords and maybe give you a little poke.
yeah. I mean, the Knight of Wands might do that too, but I think the Knight of Swords is just is a little bit more, and I think it's just enough to really just shake you up to where you're like, oh, well, I guess I better get going.
Yeah. Yeah, right. Like, I think the Knight of Swords is a little bossier than the Knight of Wands.
Exactly.
The Knight of Wands does their thing, and they don't, like, as long as they're doing their thing and they're not in anybody's way and nobody's in their way, they pretty much just sort of stay focused on what they're doing.
Yeah.
But the Knight of Swords might be one of those people who's like, you're doing it wrong.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, the Knight of Swords is always, when I pull this, it's always about cutting the bullshit. It's like, okay, you've thought about this enough. Quit making excuses. Get the hell out and do what you're going to do.
Yeah, exactly. Just do a thing. If it's time to do something, even if it's wrong.
My mother used to say, I've got to do something even if it's wrong.
Yep. No more napping today.
Yep.
Well, this is really cool. Do you have anything else you want to add? I think we were really very thorough about the night.
I think so. I mean, it's a great way to understand that. I mean, I would even suggest that we might do something similar with the other court cards.
Yeah, I was going to say the same thing. I think that would be really good. One of the things that I read about court cards in general, and I'm pretty sure it was Benebell Wen. It might be someone else that I have a book by, but I'm pretty sure it's her. Said that when a court card appears, there's a voice that's speaking in the reading. And she did, and she went into talking about sometimes they can represent the seeker, the person who's asking the question. Sometimes they can represent an actual person in their life. Right. And sometimes it's just kind of like a facet of the situation, or maybe a personality trait you might want to try to cultivate in yourself to make whatever you're going through go a little bit smoother. So I think that's one of the reasons that court cards are very confusing, is because they cover such a big
they do. I mean,
category
when I first started with tarot, I was always trying to figure out who in my life these cards represented, and they don't always represent a person. They can represent a trait, or they can represent a certain type of energy, or like you said, they can just represent a voice in the reading, a question, or whatever. Like, you say you pull the Knight of Cups and you're like, well, what are you trying to communicate? What are you trying to say about the situation? Or what are you trying to feel about this situation? And that kind of thing. So it's not necessarily that they have to correspond to a direct person in somebody's life.
And this is why it can be so goddamn confusing to roll a card. But with the more experience, you just get better at figuring out where this fits in the narrative that the cards are.
And I think a big part of helping me understand a lot of these has been to work with the energy of the card.
Mm-hmm.
to like, Knight of Swords is always, it's like, okay, are you trying to, fool yourself? Are you lying to yourself? Are you not being honest? What is it? Because the energy of this card is just like gung ho. I have no time for deception, for subtlety, or it's just got to be in your face. What is going on?
Exactly. Yeah.
And that's that. When I look at it that way, it became a lot clearer to me. So.
Well, this was really fun. Thank you so much for doing this. We missed
Well,
Kate.
thanks for thinking of it. This was awesome.
We missed Kate, but she's having such a good time with her grandbaby. We wouldn't
Oh, I
want
know.
her to
Yes,
miss
I
that.
know.
So
You
she's
can't.
getting hugs and kisses right now.
Tarot grandkids.
Easy choice, babe. Easy choice. Every time. Pick the grandkids. Okay, everybody. We'll see you soon.
All right. Talk to you later. Bye.